You're listening to a 3CR podcast recorded in the 3CR Community Radio Studio in Melbourne, Australia. If you like what you hear, please consider donating or subscribing so we can keep bringing you more independent community content. For more information, go to 3cr.org.au.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Bringing you the news and views and the untold side of the Palestinian struggle for freedom from a Palestinian perspective. Good morning, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Palestine Remembered. The genocide continues unabated. Support diplomatically, militarily, and from the media, just unrelenting and unstopping. This week we were confronted by Michaelia, who decided that Senate estimates was the appropriate time to question our Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, on whether or not indicted war criminal, a man accused of crimes against humanity, the worst crime, the crime of crimes, genocide, Benjamin Netanyahu. She decided that Senate estimates was the time to put Penny Wong and the Labor government on notice as to what the coalition, our alternative government's position was on Benjamin Netanyahu. Have a listen to the exchange.
Minister, is Prime Minister Netanyahu welcome on Australian soil?
Well, Senator, I don't believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu is seeking a visit to Australia at this point.
Well, is he welcome on Australian soil, though?
Yeah, that's a hypothetical. I mean,
well, it's not a hypothetical, because I can assure you, under a Dutton government, he is welcome here.
Well,
is he welcome on Australian soil under you as the Foreign Minister and Mr Albanese as the Prime Minister?
That is a hypothetical, and I won't be responding to it.
Well, you've just sent a very clear message across Australia to Jewish Australians that you are unable to answer under your government and under your leadership as our Foreign Minister whether or not the Prime Minister of Israel is welcome on Australian soil.
Senator, I'm happy to respond to this. We all understand why you're asking these questions, and you flagged that yourself by your reference to the Australian Jewish community. You and I both know that this is a conflict that has generated a great deal of division in the Australian community. And I would simply say to you 2 points. One is Australia is not a central player in this. And the second point is to listen to what Mr Burgess from ASIO said, which is it is important for us to dial down the temperature here domestically.
So can I just confirm the Albanese government's position is not to bring the conflict here, in planning to do that is to leave open the possibility that Australia may well arrest the Prime Minister of Israel should he come here?
I'm not. Well, they're your words, and
okay, well,
your motivation behind. And I think everyone can see your motivation behind it, Senator Cash.
Well,
I think everyone can see your motivation behind that.
We stand with Israel.
Well,
we stand with Israel. We stand with the democracy. And we're prepared to say that Prime Minister Netanyahu is welcome here under a Dutton government. Minister, the International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for Prime Minister Netanyahu's arrest, but the International Criminal Court has made it clear that a government, including the Albanese government, can refuse in its absolute discretion to enforce an arrest warrant. As a matter of government policy, does the Albanese Labor government intend to arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu if he came to Australia?
Well, I'm not speculating on that, and that would be those are matters for the Attorney General.
What is?
Will you rule out arresting?
You're the Foreign Minister. That is fantastic.
Wow! Sorry, Senator Cash.
Wow.
There's a thing called international law.
Wow.
And we are parties to the Rome Statute.
Just amazing sycophancy, just amazing how far our alternative government is prepared to go to create a wedge and a divide in our community, to use this genocide and latent and blatant anti-Palestinian racism to destroy any form of social cohesion that exists in our country, any form of social cohesion that we might have enjoyed previously. And to Senator Cash, when she talks about the Jewish community, that's anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic to think that as a plurality, it's anti-Semitic to think that every Jew in Australia is okay with what's going on in Gaza and in Palestine. It's anti-Semitic to ascribe the belief that every Australian Jew is an Israel firster, a Zionist apologist, as you seem to be. It's anti-Semitic to believe that the Jewish community wants Benjamin Netanyahu to come to Australia. A reminder of what she said.
We stand with Israel, we stand with the democracy, and we are prepared to say that Prime Minister Netanyahu is welcome here under a Dutton government.
That was Michaelia Cash telling us exactly her position on Israel, on Zionism, and something we should remind her of, and all Zionist apologists of, is that their legacies will forever be tainted for their support for this genocidal regime. At some point, history will judge all of those people poorly. Just as we have South Africans today, white South Africans, that walk the streets of Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. The overwhelming majority of white South Africans came to Australia after Nelson Mandela got out of jail. But they'll all tell you that they were against apartheid in South Africa. And we don't have the receipts. We don't have the receipts to be able to substantiate that they were for apartheid. Arguably, if you're against apartheid, you probably left in the 70s or 80s. You didn't leave in 2000. Anyway, Zionists, you should know we've got the receipts. You'll never be able to wash the legacy of your support for this genocidal apartheid regime from your legacies. The anti-Palestinian racism continues. And it's not just the cases you might know about that are so very clear, in particular, the campaign against Dr. Rhonda Abdel Fattah, Antoinette Lattouf, Jason Gilham at the MSO, Sarah Schwartz, Peter Laylaw, the cricket commentator. There are so many others, smaller situations that we maybe have lost them in all the noise. But there was a lawyer at Herbert Smith Freehills, Damien Hazard, who got sacked over a social media post. Alex Evans, who wrote a letter to the editor. He was at the CBA. Miss Kananina, she's a Triple J guest announcer. They said that her pro-Palestine statement breached standards. There was the office work staff member who was videoed. There was some baristas at the Black Star Cafe who were sacked for wearing a keffiyeh. There was Theo and the fake bomb that was planted out the front of his house. There was a firebombing in Newport. The State Library workshop that get cancelled. Harmony Week, where Palestinians weren't allowed to wear keffiyehs. Most recently, of course, there's all the furore about the Venice Biennale and Khaled Sabsabi, where Australia's participation in the Venice Biennale was cancelled. Most recently, during the week, Khaled Sabsabi's work at Monash University. Monash University, for the first time in 50 years, the MUMA exhibition has been indefinitely postponed. The National Gallery of Australia censored some Palestinian flags. We've got an Apple retail worker who's had to take on the tech giant in a racial discrimination case because they'll let you wear any sort of pin in Apple. You can wear a Ukrainian pin, an Israeli pin, a LGBT pin, an Indigenous pin, but don't you dare wear a Palestinian pin. The most recent victim of anti-Palestinian racism is Kellee Green, who won the Jazz Award at this week's ceremony for a composition she wrote called River to the Sea. The Zionist lobby was quick getting onto the Brisbane City Council, who has pulled funding for the Queensland Music Awards moving forward. The Lord Mayor said the decision to hand a major prize to an offensively titled anti-Jewish song raises serious questions about whether the awards have been hijacked by extremists. Lord Mayor, not extremists, people of humanity who want everybody to be equal from the river to the sea. The notions that Zionists ascribe to our chant from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free. They ascribe a notion of genocide to us. Meanwhile, they're actively engaging in one. It isn't just Palestinian activists that say so. It's Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, every major human rights organisation on earth, leading genocide scholars all over the earth, special rapporteurs, Jewish genocide experts are saying that Israel is committing genocide. When Palestinians and their supporters talk about a land that is free from the river to the sea, they are saying everybody should be free. The only people that don't want everybody to be free from the river to the sea, well, that's Zionists. That's Israel. That's in particular this Knesset that last year passed a resolution by an overwhelming majority saying that there must never be a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. And in fact, in an amazing interjection into our politics, members of the Knesset have written to our alternative government saying that Australia should end the support for the two-state solution. We should all be talking about a one-state solution where everybody is free. Of course, if you're an apartheid apologist, you don't like that. You want your supremacy, and that's what Zionism is. Anyway, the amazing Kellee Green got this award. She's composed an entire album. It's a gorgeous album. There'll be a link to her Spotify in the podcast, so make sure you go along and listen to that. Support Kellee if you can. We'll play a little snippet of it in a moment, but I just want to talk about just how extreme and vehement the condemnation of Kellee Green has been. The decision to hand a major prize to an offensively titled anti-Jewish song raises serious questions. The good Lord Mayor also hit out at the speech, labelling it as vile hate speech. The promotion of anti-Semitism at Tuesday night's Queensland Music Awards was utterly shameful and divisive. Lord Mayor, you're being divisive. This is a call for equality for all. Anti-Palestinian racism continues to rear its head. The job of art, the goal of art, is to have existing paradigms questioned, to challenge people, to make people think, to talk outside of their comfort spaces. Whether it's the painting by Picasso of Guernica, wherever it might be, art's job is to disturb the comfortable. And we're so very thankful for Kellee's support. Have a listen to this snippet of her winning piece, River to the Sea. I'm sure you'll agree, just hauntingly beautiful. Follow Kellee Green on Spotify so you can support her, and make sure you download the album. Brilliantly, in her acceptance speech, Kellee noted that the inspiration for the piece. She said, "I can't accept this award without acknowledging the reason for its creation. Our own government is complicit in war crimes by supporting Israel, both in words and actions, by allowing the export of weapons and weapon parts to Israel to directly kill innocent Palestinian men, women and children. I urge you to please educate yourself about this ongoing genocide and take action by protesting, contacting your MP, some of whom are here tonight, and boycotting where you can so this government knows that these wars are occurring without our consent. All power to you, sister, all power to you." She ended the speech with the phrase, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," after which a song was named. Speaking of anti-Palestinian racism, the Australian Human Rights Commission has put together a definition of anti-Palestinian racism. And it says that the Palestinian community commonly noted experiences of dehumanisation and silencing. Many community members fear openly identifying as Palestinian, experiencing pressure to conceal their identity. Christian Palestinian Australians feel their identity is frequently denied or tied to racist Islamophobic narratives. The Commission heard that anti-Palestinian hate is distinct from Islamophobia and anti-Arab racism, but remains largely unrecognised and unaddressed in public discourse. Some community members believe that the denial and justification of violence against Palestinians contribute to widespread dehumanisation, reducing empathy from the broader community. People who are not Palestinian also experience discrimination and vilification for their position and views on Palestine. An extraordinary step to define anti-Palestinian racism. There's a way to go, but it's a start. We'll put a link in the podcast where you can go and see that work. It's part of the government funding, if you recall, way back when. Almost immediately after October 7, our Prime Minister stood up and said that he was going to offer $50 million, $25 million to the Executive Council of Australian Jewry for safety, and $25 million to Australian Muslim and Arab communities. Sometime later, he added the word Palestinian. The $25 million was urgently dispatched for security, and the $25 million that was allocated to the Arab, Muslim and Palestinian communities took some time to get sent out. Of the first tranche of money that was allocated, 2 million was allocated to the Human Rights Commission for anti-racism work. Interestingly, when I met with the then president of the Australian Human Rights Commission, I said, well, this $2 million, seeing as it's coming out of, quote unquote, our side of the 50 million, it must be only for anti-Palestinian racism work, for Islamophobic work, for anti-Arab racism work. And she said, no, it's for all racism work. I said, but hold on a second. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry got $25 million for security, and $25 million came to our communities, quote unquote, our side. Surely the $2 million that's been allocated from our side should be work for us. And that if you want to spend $2 million on this program, you should go get $1 million from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. That fell, as you can imagine, on deaf ears, and that money is being allocated for work in all the racism spaces. Money was sent to SBS for language programs. Money was sent to the Australian Associated Press for fact-checking. It wasn't until well down the list, that any organisation got any money that had the name Palestine in it. Shameful, disturbing, disgusting. But the fight continues and the work continues, my friends. The work continues for us to push back on the false equivalence, the unholy trinity of Israel, Zionism and Judaism. We can criticise the state of Israel and not be anti-Semitic. You can criticise Zionism, a political ideology, and not be anti-Semitic. Zionists, their supporters, the lobby, the Israel Firsters have created an unholy trinity, a singularity between Zionism, Israel and Judaism. They are not. One is an ancient religion founded in the 10 Commandments. And as a human being, if you lived your life by those simple 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, do not covet thy neighbour's wife, share. If you lived your life by those 10 Commandments, whether you're a Jew, Muslim or Christian, because we all share them, if you lived your life according to those 10 Commandments, you'd be a good person. Doesn't tell you to commit genocide, doesn't tell you to steal land, doesn't tell you to commit a Holocaust, doesn't tell you to have a turkey shoot and kill tens of thousands of innocent men, women and children. And here we are, almost 4 weeks since Israel cut off all aid, the electricity, food, medicine, on top of what the Palestinians have endured for over 530 days. It's just shameful that we haven't been condemning it. It's shameful that we are creating definitions that protect that ideology, that the University of Australia is pushing out a discredited definition, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. The lead author said it's not fit for purpose, that is being pushed out to protect people, to protect people's feelings because they feel hurt that people are showing solidarity to the Palestinians. Let me tell you something. If your political ideology abuses, kills, murders, rapes people, and you're okay with that political ideology, the problem's you. The problem's you and that ideology. And if you feel uncomfortable, that might be your subconscious trying, through cognitive dissonance, to find a better place for you. And you should know, the Palestine Solidarity Movement will help you do that work. Come to us. We want everybody to be free Zionists. You need to let go of that toxic ideology that is bound up in ethno-religious supremacy, that's bound up in the oppression and the murder of Palestinians, that is bound up in the continued torture of Palestine. Enough. All of Abraham's children should and must live free from the river to the sea, and there should be no room for any sort of supremacism, whatever that supremacism looks like, whether it's Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, anti-Semitism, patriarchy, or any sort of hate. The Palestine we're going to build is going to be free from all of that. And if you have any hate, whatever that hate may be, you won't be welcome. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea.
Hi, this is Rafif Ziada, and you're listening to 3CR, pro-Palestinian, happily proud radio.
A quick update from overnight, day 538. More attacks in the north of Gaza, 7 Palestinians killed. The Israelis bombed the Awad family, killing another 3 in the Zaytun district. They bombed a residential building in Saftawi, killing another 7, including a family of 6. They've issued displacement orders for Zaytun, Tal al-Hawa and Sheikh el-Jin neighbourhoods. Another 63 killed, 206 injured in the past 48 hours. In Lebanon, another 3 attacks, killing 6 people. The IOF struck a tent city, a encampment and a charity food bank in central Gaza, killing 11, including 5 kids. In Khan Yunis, they killed another person. The barbarity and just shocking inhumanity is just beyond imagining. It continues unabated. In the West Bank, the IOF shot and killed an 18-year-old in Nablus. They seized his body. They shot and injured another 18-year-old and a 15-year-old and 2 16-year-olds in Hebron, Khalil. For the 4th consecutive Friday during Ramadan, the occupation forces blocked the full access to Al-Khalil Ibrahimi Mosque. Just shameful that it continues, that nobody says anything. I'm not sure what the world is waiting for. This is now, as we say, coming into 18 months of this just apocalyptic, murderous rampage, hate-filled rampage, Zionism exposed in its absolute worst. But we take hope. We take hope from what's happening around the world, the worldwide call for boycotts of the Disney movie starring that genocide apologist, horrific actor. She's a horrible actor. I don't know why anybody would engage her other than wanting to normalize Israel and the IOF. Gal Gadot, just horrible. We should remember that this woman was actively engaged in the army. She fought in the army. She was active and is active in the support of that genocidal war machine, in the murder of children. She spews genocidal propaganda every chance she gets. Her co-star, just an amazing woman, Rachel Zegler. She's just been phenomenal. She said, "Free Palestine," and you imagine which one of them got demonized. Not Gal Gadot, the soldier, but Rachel Zegler for saying "Free Palestine." She's been staunch in her Twitter, in her Facebook. A young woman, only I think 20 or 21 years of age. The powers that be are blaming her for the tanking of the movie. It's not about her. It's brand Israel that smells. Nobody wants anything to do with it, and the sooner you walk away, the sooner you disassociate, the better. The Sydney Festival learnt it when they took $20,000 of blood money from the Israeli embassy, and the boycotts that really impacted there. And it led to a change. The Sydney Festival will never take blood money again from an embassy. I heard the Israeli embassy was trying to sponsor a Scouts sausage sizzle, but even the Scouts said no to them. I am kidding, of course, but that's what Israel should expect. That's how brand Israel should be treated, with disdain, with derision, with mockery. In defiance of everything that is happening in the world, international rulings to boycott Israel for its ongoing violence and the brutal occupation of Palestine, Australia continues to export to Israel. This month, even though Israel breached the US quote-unquote guaranteed ceasefire, without a trace of humanity, as we know it's resumed, it killed over 200 Palestinian children in an hour, and arguably the single largest child massacre in history. Children getting amputations without anaesthesia. Every human being with a trace of morality or humanity must be appalled at what we're seeing. But according to the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, Australia's exports to Israel continue throughout the genocide. Everything from coal to copper have continued. In the year 2024, $212 million. As we know, in January, the International Court of Justice concluded there was a plausible risk of Israel committing acts of genocide. And the Genocide Convention obliges state parties like Australia to take action to prevent genocide, a positive obligation to do whatever we can to stop. We are not compelled to be the on-off switch, but what we need to do is make sure that we are not complicit in aiding in a genocide. The fact that we've continued to has made every single Australian complicit. In July of 2024, the International Court of Justice further determined that Israel's occupation of Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem is unlawful, and everything associated with the settlement regime and the annexation of Palestinian natural resources is illegal. And the court made it clear that third-party states must, quote-unquote, abstain from entering into economic or trade dealings with Israel, which may entrench its unlawful presence in the territory. Furthermore, third-party states must take steps to prevent trade or investment relations that assist in the maintenance of the illegal situation created by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. As you can imagine, the breakdown of the trade is everything from coal, coke and briquettes to chemicals, iron and steel, non-ferrous metals, agricultural machinery, and $1.5 million in arms and ammunition, in direct contravention to what we continue to be told from our government that we are not. It's time for us to end any and all two-way military trade. In full compliance with the International Court of Justice ruling, Colombian President Gustavo Petro announced in June that his country would suspend coal exports to Israel until it stops the genocide. The Colombian Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Tourism imposed the immediate prohibition of coal exports to Israel. These are to remain in force until Israel complies with certain interim measures of the International Court of Justice. Companies involved in the coal trade with Israel should take note of this prohibition and adjust their operations accordingly. In November, Colombia's Minister for Environment and Sustainable Development, Susana Mohammed, stated unequivocally, "We realised that Colombian coal was fueling 70% of Israel's energy capabilities. President Petro has signed a decree to forbid the export of Colombian coal to Israel. We are calling on other countries to not supply fossil energy used in this genocide." The reality is the Israeli Electrical Company has an unsegmented grid. It supplies 99.85% of the electrical power in Israel and the Palestinian territories. Unlike Colombia's brilliant position in honouring that International Court of Justice ruling, Australia sent a ship. Captain Venamius was tracked from Newcastle to New South Wales to the Israeli port of Hadera, departing here on the 12th of September and arriving on the 8th of November. Hadera hosts Israel's largest power station, the state-owned Orat Rabin power plant. Of course, the ship had to sail around the Cape of Good Hope and not via the Red Sea blockade the Yemenis have been successfully holding out. At the time the Australian coal had arrived in Israel, Israel had killed in excess of 40,000 people. The ABS says the total volume of exports from Australia to Israel in 2024 in the arms and ammunition category amounted to $1.534 million. Of course, we don't know exactly what we're sending, and representatives from Minister Wong to the Defence Secretaries ignore the statutory definitions by continually speaking of weapons or by questioning the accuracy of these statistics. And the department and the bureaucracy continues to obfuscate, and this is the quote, "Try and work out what sense we're making here. We have assured ourselves that we have been publicly put forward in the media as in fact incorrect, and that it is not arms and ammunition. It is in fact related to goods and technologies that normally would flow. In particular, the most recent figure has been referred to is 1.5 million is for a single item that is a return to Australia item that falls under the category of what we've been talking about in that it supports Australian defence capability. Just not good enough. We should have nothing to do with this rogue apartheid state. We don't need anything from them, and we should be giving them nothing." Thanks for listening to another episode of Palestine Remembered. Make sure you go to the podcast, share that with your friends, but also to get a link to Kellee Green's album and her award-winning song, River to the Sea. I can't tell you how much it means to me to meet people wherever I am all over this continent who tell me that they listen to the show and how much it means for them and how they share it with their friends as an information source, a reliable information source. Thank you very much for your solidarity, for standing up loud and proud for Palestine. Make sure you get to your rally. There's one tomorrow at State Library at 12 o'clock. Share the podcast, tell your friends, and remember, there's never been a better time for a free Palestine.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast. If you found it valuable, please consider donating or subscribing to support independent community radio. To find out more, go to 3cr.org.au.